You Booked It, episode 223. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Have you joined the You Booked It community yet? It is your go-to entertainment career resource. Inside, you'll have direct access to Broadway performers, Emmy nominees, and people just like yourself navigating this industry. Learn from those walking the walk. Build industry relationships, access unlimited masterclasses, and learn how to book the job more consistently. Join free today. Tap the link in the show notes or go to youbookeditpodcast.com/invite to get inside. And now, let's meet today's guest. All right, let's kick off today's episode. I am super stoked for my guest today. I've got David Cicerelli. David, are you ready to do this?
All right, I'm definitely ready to do this, Dane. Thanks for having me.
You bet. David is an entrepreneur at heart. For the last decade, David has grown Voices from the ground up to become the leader in the voiceover industry with the help of his team. Most recently, he has led the charge through Voices' transition from a voiceover platform to an audio services marketplace, newly adding translation, audio production, and music composition to the services offered on voices.com. As CEO, David is responsible for setting the vision, executing the growth strategy, creating a vibrant culture, and managing the company on a day-to-day basis. David, that is a very tight synopsis of what you've done and what you do in the industry, but why don't you expand on that a bit? Fill in the gaps and tell us a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Absolutely, I'd love to. Most of us found our start in life as a child. For me, it was the love for music and the love for sound. I grew up playing drums and piano. I also tinkered with audio technology, record players. We had the shortwave radio at home where you could dial into radio stations from around the world. So I was always fascinated with the tech as well as the arts and the performance. When it came time to actually finding post-secondary education, what we were going to do in college, university, I actually came across a school called the Ontario Institute of Audio Recording Technology. In effect, it's a school that's dedicated to the art and craft and science of sound. And there I learned where to record, edit, and produce music and audio really for all kinds of mediums. And I actually opened up my small recording studio of my own, a project studio here in London, Canada. It's just about a couple hours outside of Toronto. We were looking for a reference point on the map. And Dane, I actually got my name in the local newspaper on my birthday of all days.
Yeah.
And it kind of introduced me, this studio, to the local, arts community and even the business community. And it actually turned out that Stephanie, who's now, of course, my wife and co-founder in the company, at the time she was a music major at the Western Music School, the local university here. And she would sing freelance or on gig basis at weddings, at funerals, at special events. So when her mom saw this newspaper article about a new studio opening up, she thought this is a great opportunity to get her singing repertoire recorded. So her mom cuts out the article, leaves it for Stephanie, and Stephanie ends up coming down to the studio, where we, of course, hit it off right away. And because of that, and did recorded her repertoire indeed, but because of that same newspaper article, and I think it shows you the power of publicity, even within your local community, that there were other small businesses in town that wanted a recording done, a voiceover done. One was for a hair salon, wanted some local, some radio ads. And then there was an event management company. They wanted some phone system recordings updated. Now, both of them wanted a female voice talent. Now, I was kind of a nerd, as I said, an engineer, but I only knew one girl in the city, and that was Stephanie, who I had just met. So I gave her a call. I said, "You've got a great singing voice. I know you've done on stage performance throughout your career to date. Would you consider, I got this gig, the couple gigs that came in, would you consider being the female voice talent? And I'll be the engineer, and the deal is we'll split the money 50-50. So that's how we got together. Yes, I guess by nature it's true. I suppose I just realized I might have married my first customer in the studio. But nonetheless, we also started working together and, really did freelance voiceover work, me as the engineer, Stephanie as the talent. But we put up this really basic recording studio website, this website that promoted our little entrepreneurial venture, if you will. And that actually attracted other freelancers, people who spoke French and Spanish, people who did commercial work, people who did narration, long form narration for
Mm.
documentaries or corporate training material. And then, of course, you have the celebrity impersonations and other character work that need to be done. And we would get these inquiries to our website and say, hey, can I be listed on there? I see you have one female voice. And then the roster grew. And next thing you know, we had a few dozen independent voice talent from all around North America and eventually all around the world. And then concurrently, we had these clients, creative producers, casting directors. People would contact us, video producers who would say, I see this person that you have on there. How do I get in touch with them? And that was the initial kind of aha moment that many of us have either in our career or entrepreneurial ventures of, wow, there's a problem here. I think I can solve that. And for us, that was, why don't we step out of doing the production ourselves and instead reinvent what we're doing as almost an online marketplace, which is what it's
Yeah.
become, that connects the buyer and the seller, or in this case, connects that talent, mostly a voice talent, with that client, that buyer who's looking to hire them for a specific project. And that's what we've been doing for well over a decade. And it seems to be working out quite well over the last couple of years.
Yeah, very cool. I am excited to dig into this. But before we go any further, I want to get into this first section here. And David, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What's your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
I wish I had a quote that I live by. Maybe more. May I offer a definition? And I
Yes.
think that's because I am more of a business person per se than that supports a lot of artists and entertainers. And so the definition I wanted to offer up is that of strategy. And I think we all need, whether they're career strategies or professional development strategies, or even where do I get my clients? I need a strategy, a business strategy. And for that, I'm going to say that strategy is really the integrated set of choices that a business or a person makes that differentiates themselves from all the competition out there to deliver superior long-term results. Now, let me unpack that, if I may, Dane, because I think
Yeah.
the takeaway, if you remember anything from this academic sounding definition of strategy, it's the integration of the set of choices. So it's strategy is choice. So think of it as like you're walking down the path in your career or in your business venture, and you come to the proverbial fork in the road, right? You can
Hmm.
go left or you can go right, but you can't go down both paths simultaneously. So you need a way to think about, how do I make that choice? And you know that you are forced with that choice. Now, it's been described that there's some choices in life that are these one-way doors, right? You go down that and you cannot get back. But the reality is that most of them are two-way doors. You can go down a path. If it doesn't work out, you can change course, you can backtrack. That's okay. But just go into every one of those moments knowing that you're making a choice. And one framework, if you will, a mental model that I often use to make great choices is what I call 10-10-10. Now, it's been kind of shared around, and there's people who've written about this idea as well, but I find it very helpful and instructive. I'll share it briefly,
Yeah.
which is, when you come to that fork in the road, think about, am I going to be happy with this choice 10 minutes from now, 10 months from now, and 10 years from now? And what I love
Ah,
about that is that it actually quantifies and sets up, kind of makes it tangible, of this otherwise intangible notion of short, medium, and long-term consequences, right? Or what's the outcome, short, medium, long term? Okay, well, am I still going to be happy about this career choice? Maybe it's an audition I get. Yeah, I really want to go after that job or go after that client. Or maybe it's a partnership opportunity. Yeah, in the moment, I don't think it's going to be, it seems like it's going to be a lot of work, but if it did work out, wow, 10 months from now, it could be great. Well, maybe that's going to encourage you to do something otherwise that might in the short term seem like a direct distraction or just more work, but in the long term could have huge dividends. So that way, I think you can have a more balanced approach to choices over the short, medium, and long term. So hopefully that's more than a quote, but more of a definition and a way to think about how we can navigate life more effectively.
yeah, I love that. I think that's super, super valuable and worth a massive rewind, everyone, for that one. And the 10-10-10, really like that. I think it's more, I guess it's time bound, right? And I like that, is as far as when people say, well, what's a short, medium, and long term goal? You hear that often, I think. But
Yes.
to define it in 10-10-10 makes it more real, I think, and more tangible to wrap your head around. That's really cool. I love that.
Absolutely. And I think if I may, I think it applies to both business and in life, your
Mm,
personal life as well too. There could be something that maybe is perhaps a distraction or a temptation, and you really got to ask yourself, is this the right thing to do? I mean, maybe in the short term, I'm happy with it. 10 minutes from now, I'm going to feel great. Maybe it's an impulse purchase or a quick decision I made. But, unfortunately, can sometimes be longer term consequences that in the moment we just don't pause long enough to contemplate what those outcomes might be, and then it
yeah.
might actually save yourself from making some missteps, with that longer term picture in mind.
Yeah, 100%. Love that. Well, let's get into this next section here. And David, of course, you are a professional in the entertainment industry. I'm a professional in the entertainment industry. And I think that you'd agree that, hey, this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry, like you're having now, takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there's an outrageous amount of fun and fulfillment doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles and challenges and failures we're inevitably going to experience, we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Well, story that comes to mind right away is after the initial launch of that website back so many years, more than a decade now, we were
Mm,
actually called Interactive Voices, which is even kind of stumbling on my own words, just saying the name again now. I mean, we were gaining some traction, more voice actors and talent were signing up on the website. And our brand promise was always, hey, we're going to provide you with opportunity. And we came up with that as this idea to how do we communicate this opportunity that we're going to deliver from all the talent that were signing up. We had to get them these job opportunities, auditions,
yeah.
if you will. So we actually sent out jumbo sized postcards to potential clients in New York and LA thinking, hey, there's a lot of casting directors there. There's a lot of talent advertising agencies. And maybe we could get them to register for our services. And then they would post some jobs, post kind of these casting calls, if you will.
Mm,
And so we did this not just by sending these jumbo postcards, but by actually doing a giveaway on the postcard that if you signed up, you'd be entered into a contest to win an iPod. And I thought that would be good. Well, the discovery that was made and kind of the real challenge was, well, there's a lot of available talent. It's really the client who's kind of determining, where they go to source their talent and who do they hire, really factors outside of our control. Now,
mm,
despite kind of sending this out, we actually worked with a local, direct mail advertising agency. We spent $30,000 emailing 30,000 people these postcards, and we sent not just one postcard, but they got one like every couple weeks. I think there was like 3 in the campaign. Well,
wow.
the punchline is this: after the 6 week and the 3 rounds of postcards were sent out, how many people entered in our contest? 2. There was just
Mm,
2 people. So from a business standpoint, that's sometimes referred to the cost per lead. Our cost per
yeah.
lead, these weren't even customers. They were just simply people who were interested in signing up, or who had signed up, was $15,000 each. So completely outrageous. What we did, of course, was we did have the iPod. We put the names in the hat. We drew it. And I remember the one fellow, we call him up and we're like, the guy's like, I never win anything. I'm like, well, you were one of 2 people. But I look back on that and realized, well, what maybe kind of went wrong? I realized that we were trying to get somebody to actually sign up on a website, but we mailed them something, piece of paper in the mail that probably ended up in a mailroom, then on someone's desk, and then it kind of got moved around. And it was almost this concept of channel switching, which is really bad to do in your marketing. You want to have your marketing as close to like the point of action where someone's going to take. And I think what I've learned is, okay, if you're going to try to have somebody sign up on a website, maybe you should be doing more digital marketing. If, however, your business is an offline business, maybe there's different ways or communities or people that you can interact with offline that they can come into your physical store presence. So that was one thing. Now, all's not lost. You got to figure out how do we make the most of an otherwise bad situation,
Yeah.
$30,000 down the drain, so to speak. Well, we actually got some, the marketing agency did develop some language around what it is that we do. They designed kind of the initial color palette. They created these postcards. The imagery on it was this like retro style cartoony look that was actually really cool and kind of pretty edgy at the time. And so it created this look that included the mascots and this brand identity. So, well, it was a mistake and kind of this rejection, if you will, of like, yeah, you can have a great idea for a website. I
Mm,
realized it was going to be a lot longer of a haul to be able to engage with these producers and casting directors to convince them that we have a faster, better, easier way to hire professional voice talent.
very cool. And what did you ultimately find was the draw?
The draw was really having a simple message. It needs to be faster and easier or cheaper by a factor like a 10x factor. Now, there's kind of this saying that you can be fast, easier, cheap. Pick two of the three because
Yep.
you can't be all three of those. You can have food fast and it's going to be cheap food, but it's not necessarily better, as in better quality. Or on the
Right.
other end, you can have high quality experience. Maybe going to the opera is a very high quality experience. It's going to be expensive, but it doesn't happen fast, right? There's a lot of kind of build up and great, circumstance during during the performance. Um, but it's kind of a long drawn out thing. So for us, the two of the three that we picked was let's make it fast and easy, and then also like this kind of high quality. We wanted to elevate the craft of voice acting for that the talent are providing. So I mean, from a price perspective, that wasn't what we were going to compete on because the talent, you know, we our business is based on shared success with those talent. The more that they make, the more that we make. There's a transaction fee that comes out of the earnings, the jobs that they win on the platform. So
Yep.
we actually want to have those prices elevated, those rates that they're charged, because we're in it with them. Our incentives are aligned. So, I think that's where we realize it's not going to be price. And in fact, we're probably going to elevate prices or maintain high prices or industry standard rates, if you will, and instead just go really hard on this notion of like the value prop is like great quality and you can hire fast and easy. And that's what we've really been championing for so many years.
Yes, very cool. Did you know building industry relationships are the most important assets you need to create a long lasting entertainment career? And don't take my word for it. Guest after guest here on the podcast have attributed some of their biggest career moments to their relationships. That is why you need to get yourself inside the You Booked It community. You'll learn what you need to do to get noticed and make sure your headshot stays in the callback pile so you can book the gig more consistently and create a successful career. Tap the link in the show notes or go to youbookeditpodcast.com/invite to get inside free today. Well, let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time, you realized, yes, I am going to be in this entertainment industry, this voiceover industry. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing in this industry. Tell us about that.
When I first started my business as a solo entrepreneur, I provided that small recording studio. It was really local bands and musicians at the beginning. It was actually in a loft apartment in the downtown of the city. We had studio sessions there during the day. It also kind of ran later into the evening. Now,
Mm.
this arrangement was fine for a bachelor, I suppose. But I quickly realized that this lifestyle means having and serving customers that didn't work so well once we got married and then, had our first child on the way. And so, both Stephanie and I knew that we needed to make a change and fast. So that kind of came to a head once I said, once the first child, our son, was on the way. So his birth really served as that catalyst to moving to a
Mm.
new home, trying to separate business, if you will, from the family life. But that business went from the recording of the musicians to working, which are, dare I say, loud to say the least, and a much more of kind of an ambiance and an entourage that happens when we're recording bands, to working with independent voice talent. I found out that actually that whole process was really ripe for digitization, that you could
Mm.
take that traditional method of contacting talent agencies, having them do in-person auditions. We could really, to reuse the term, digitize that process where the client posts a job and then the talent reply to that job online. So is that shift from like doing the sound engineering to that initial marketplace where we saw clients posting jobs, and I realized that was the moment. I'm like, wow, we're going to make it in, this kind of hybrid world of being entertainers, and we're working in the entertainment business, but also being in more of the business side of it. And today, Voices is home to well over 2 million registered users, ranging in terms of talent, ranging from I'm exploring the industry to I'm an aspirational with a completed profile and sample of my voice, and I've taken coaching and training, all the way through to the professionals who are working day in, day out, knocking out auditions and delivering great work for clients around the world. So that was, I think that aha moment was the transition from the engineer to being really a business and a leader within business in the space. So hopefully that kind of hits the mark on the spotlight moment, as you call it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I want to piggyback on that real quick, and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, what was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
Maybe not quite booked it in the traditional sense that I'm sure many of the guests here would share, but definitely in
Yep.
the business equivalent, if there ever was one. There was a gentleman by the name of Glenn Yonemitsu. He was a business advisor and kind of colleague and really mentor to me. He was the first executive coach that I ever had. Now, about a year into that relationship, we had the opportunity to work with the firm that he was with, the Business Development Bank of Canada, the bank's advisory services. Glenn led this whole group, and he actually made one particular session really memorable. We were considering raising capital. You hear about in Silicon Valley where, the entrepreneur has an idea, they create the pitch deck, and they go down this road called Sandhill Road where all the investors are, and they pitch kind of investor after investor. Well, we were going to do the same thing because there was an opportunity for us that we viewed to acquire a then competitor, and we needed the capital. We needed the money to acquire the competitor. Well, Glenn had actually created this he staged this whole, environment where he was the investors that, and he kind of had this whole persona that he says, when I walk in off the elevator that day, I want you to treat me like I'm the big shot investor from Morgan Stanley, a global investment bank who we actually had a meeting with in the next week. So it was really timely. So basically we did role playing together.
Mm.
And that notion of like the you booked it was not only did we pass the rehearsal with Glenn, but because of that preparedness, Voices was successful in raising $18 million from Morgan Stanley Expansion Capital. And so I think practicing that performance with a real panel and sharpening our skills and the ability to think on the fly were elements to that success. And really none of that would have been possible without having a mentor like Glenn. So he continues to be a great champion, and I'm certainly grateful for my friendship with him.
Oh, very cool. That's amazing. Preparedness, right? That's everything. So often we think about auditioning and prepping for roles and things as actors, but I think sometimes we forget that, hey, this also applies to other big moments in your life, whether that's pitching to get funding or anything really, that you can always find ways to prepare and role play, as you said, different scenarios that could possibly come up.
Yeah, I mean, find someone to ask you questions, right? They don't have to role play necessarily with you, but at least you're in the zone, you're in the
Right.
moment. It's so surprising, especially those who either are, maybe giving a speech or a talk for the first time. You might have written out your speech or have your cue cards
Mm.
or your, notes jotted down on your smartphone, but have the words actually come out of your mouth? And I know I'm guilty of this sometimes too. I write down what I want to say, and then I realized I've never actually had that sentence formed and had the words come out of my mouth. So when I actually go to say it for the first time, I find I'm kind of jumbling over and stumbling over
Yeah.
my own words. So by even saying the words aloud is a great way to prepare of just anticipating what might be asked of me. If it's an
Mm.
interview, if it's an audition, what might be asked of me, and kind of what's my quote unquote canned response or go-to response that I know I can fall back on if
Yeah.
need. So you're right. That's all part of preparedness.
Very cool. Well, let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And hey, this pandemic is kind of coming and going and coming and going, right? So, how do you see the entertainment industry, or more specifically, the voiceover industry, changing or evolving over the next couple of years?
Well, in the present where we are right now, one of the things recently we just launched is a community forum. It's at community.voices.com. It's really all designed for talent. We've expanded kind of the options that talent can kind of sign up there and get feedback from other coaches and colleagues. So if you just kind of, before maybe signing up and uploading your sample of your voice on voices.com, maybe getting some feedback from a coach or other people within the industry,
Mm,
and you can do that on the community forum. Something else, Dane, that we've done recently, you did touch on in the intro, and I think it's worth mentioning here, was really expanding from quote unquote just voiceover, which I think is still a huge. I mean, our assessment, it's a $5 billion industry that's spent on working with voice talent and audio production annually on a global basis. So massive industry and opportunity, but we've to kind of hopefully build into and kind of play a bigger role in that, adding these additional services, creative services such as translation and music composition, singing as well too. We've seen those type of projects go through the platform. So that's kind of where we are in the present. We every year work on a trends report, which I think is really cool. We both survey our clients, kind of these producers and casting directors, and ask them what changes they see, and
mm.
then compile all that information up into an annual trends report, which you can look at kind of for years past. Just Googling voices.com trends report, you'll see a number of them there. So we've got the latest one coming out, which I think will be quite instructive as well too. But yeah, there's always new things in the work on how the platform itself is changing. Hope to kind of encourage everyone to keep their eyes and ears open for some new things in the years to come.
Yeah, very cool. It is now time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the grease lightning round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Sounds
All
slippery, but let's do it.
All right. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career and building voices.com?
I think the thing that holding almost anyone back, and certainly me as well, is the fear of the unknown. Call it the fear of failure. We want to try something, but sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith.
Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
The best piece of advice I ever received was follow the flags. If you look back in life over your history year to date, whether it's your career or personal life, there's probably a series of stakes in the ground, flags that you look and they all kind of form a line, if you will. Maybe it's a
Hmm.
little scattered, but it forms a line. And then you can look forward and extrapolate out and go, hey, is what I'm considering or contemplating next in alignment with my past? And so this notion of following the flags always comes to mind.
Yeah, it kind of brings it back to the 10-10-10.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very cool. And the third question. What is something that is working for you right now?
What's working for me right now is actually reaching out to customers. Certainly at the onset of the pandemic, I called right away and set up calls, video calls, which I had rarely done beforehand, with our top 100 talent that were on the website, and just trying to make sure that they're well, their family's well. And so I think staying connected with your network is kind of as close to the one-on-one interactions that you can do, is something that's working for me right now. It really helps you keep the pulse on what's important to the people that are the most important to you.
Yeah, love that. Fourth question. What is your best resource? Whether that's a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you found is helping your career right now.
Well, I've been kind of the business guest here, and certainly business is on top of my mind. A couple kind of quick books I think are great.
Mm,
One, we talked about strategy earlier, so there's a book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. That has been really helpful of like, what is the difference between kind of what makes up a great strategy. And then if you want to kind of hear about that in practice and want more of a formula for how to put a strategy together, it's actually called Playing to Win, How Strategy Really Works. And both of those are excellent books if you're considering building out a business or an entrepreneurial venture. It'll just give you some questions to think about as you navigate to that pursuit.
very cool. And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected throughout your career, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I'd probably not take no for an answer. I think I've been told no a lot. I think we all have, that sense of rejection, but maybe discerning the difference where sometimes no means no, but sometimes it just means not right now, or there's no room in the budget, or it's not up to them. And so if you can discern when is it a hard no and when maybe it's a soft no, and there's maybe another way that you could strategize, you could negotiate, you can, engage or collaborate with that partner, whether it's a customer, a business partner, maybe a financier. So I would reflect on those moments where you did feel maybe perhaps a little bit let down. Maybe you let up too soon. And so a little bit more persistence perhaps in those moments. I'd probably tell the younger self to do so.
Love that. And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I hate to repeat here, but I think it's worth and bears doing so because we mentioned earlier, it seemed to hit home, which was this notion around 10-10-10. Evaluate your opportunities that are going to be across these three different time horizons of 10 minutes from now, 10 months from now, and 10 years from now. I think you're going to recognize that, yeah, we're going to fail over and over again. We're probably going to make some tough choices, and maybe life's going to teach us a couple of invaluable lessons in and of itself. But hopefully that'll serve as a mental model just to give you pause to make better choices in life.
Yes, love that. 10, 10, 10. And remember, go back to the top of this interview and listen to that beginning so you can get all of that information. And to wrap up this interview, David, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? And is there anything you want to promote?
Sure. Well, I think people could, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just David Cicerelli. Also on Twitter by the same name. And the best thing I think I'd encourage, if those listening are looking to maybe get into voice acting or want to explore some of the resources that we have on the website, which are completely free, whether they're videos, podcasts, downloadable ebooks, or guides, just going to voices.com. It says really who we are and what we do and the destination to go all in one snippet there. So voices.com is really the best place to go to check out and learn more about the company and maybe how we can work together.
Brilliant. And for everyone listening out there, I've put the links to everything David just said into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with him and voices.com. And also be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone you know aspiring to create a career in the entertainment industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. Case in point, everything David gave us today from 10-10-10 to all of this fantastic resource that you can get at voices.com. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. David, thank you so much. It's been such an honor and such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Oh, pleasure's mine. Thanks, Dane.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to join the You Booked It community. Inside, you can connect with your people, build industry relationships, unlock unlimited masterclasses, and access the tools and training you need to create sustainable career momentum. Get your invite link right now. Tap the link in the show notes or head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/invite, and we'll see you there.